I have been invited here today to talk about research papers. One area that often gets neglected in India, especially, and in our education, and especially for those who are thinking of international level education or going abroad for education, I think it's going to be such an important topic because it can substantially enhance and improve their chances of succeeding in their educational stream abroad, and beyond that also succeeding in their careers as professionals. So thanks to Balukeshwar sir and thanks to HDFC Credila for hosting today's session and inviting me here to talk to all of you. So it's an absolute pleasure. So let's get started with the session. So what I'm going to do is I have got some presentation slides. So we'll go through that first. And then I have got a small exercise for you if you want to do it. So if we get time, we can do the exercise during the session, or then let me just explain the exercise to you, and then you can do it, as per your convenience later on, which may just be the first, exercise for many of you to trying to write a technical or a research paper. So let's go ahead. So what are we going to do in this presentation? So I'm going to talk about writes them and why. Then I'm going to talk about the content and structure of research papers. We will look at some of the writing guidelines and the writing process that is followed, and which perhaps is the most critical part of this presentation, which is a process of writing it. Then I'll also talk about some of the review guide. How does one review his or her technical paper, and how are others reviewing your paper before it actually gets published, and so on. And then some of the new trends which are coming up in publishing. And then maybe if we have time, we'll go for some question answers, and we'll also look at the exercise as I just mentioned. So I think Balukeshwar sir has already introduced me. So, but I just had put the slide in the presentation for you. So Makarand Pandit, Bachelor of Electronics Engineering, and then did post graduation in marketing. So I have been working as a technical writer for more than 27 years now. I am recognized the world over. I'm the first Indian to reach the rank of the STC fellow. So STC is the biggest community of technical writers worldwide, and becoming a fellow is the highest rank possible in that society. So I'm the first Indian to reach that rank. Other than that, I have been working with a lot of educational institutions. So I've done a lot of lectures at Pune University. I'm a visiting faculty at FAME University. I've worked with various departments in various colleges. So the point here is I'm aware of the educational side of the business. So though I am into my professional career, but then I sort of have a twin career. So in addition to being in the industry, I also have the pleasure of interacting with a lot of academicians, a lot of students, and I get a lot of energy from all those interactions. So I'm so glad that we are here today. So there are different types of papers actually, and many times people get confused. So what is the need of a paper? So need of a paper is you are going to capture your knowledge and you are going to present it. Second is you are going to capture your knowledge and you are going to archive it, right? So your knowledge that you have got, so you want to document it so that others, maybe the rest of the humanity, can use your knowledge and then move further. So just to give you an example, so we all know that Isaac Newton came up with the principles of gravitation, and then the world really moved forward because somebody documented those theories, right? Somebody documented those principles, and then people tried to prove them, people tried to prove them right, people tried to prove them wrong, and finally they accepted that no, yes, this works. I mean, whatever he has written definitely works. And then based on that, others could build the blocks of science further on top of that foundation which was created. So likewise, there is a lot of research happening. So maybe you are into a discovery. So you are sort of uncovering what is happening in the world already, or maybe you are into invention. So you are creating something that probably was not created earlier, But in both the cases, you may want to, discuss, or you may want to share, because others will take it ahead from there. Others will definitely grow. If human beings had not shared knowledge, they would have probably never crossed the Pacific Ocean, is what I say. So we have to share our knowledge, and we do that through a number of papers. So which includes research papers, which include case reports, concept papers, review articles, a survey paper, a species paper, which typically is written in the field of biology and so on, technical paper and so on. And maybe moving forward, there'll be other types of papers also. So in business, we also use something that we call as a white paper. The government publishes a lot of white paper which is based on data, right? And so the data gets published through white paper. So the point is, there are different types of papers being published. Now in academics, there is a particular importance to writing research papers, right? So what is a research paper? So a research paper is one that publishes scholarly content based on the research performed by an individual or maybe a group. Research papers are very important because they claim ownership of the content and the technological or scientific, developments that have happened. So research papers are very important because they are used to publish content. So research papers are very important because they are used to publish content in public domain. So others can read about it, others can benefit from that, and maybe others can go ahead and do something on top of that. Research papers will capture information in the knowledge base. So there are many knowledge bases all over the world. So there are reputed societies which will give you all the research papers related to a particular field. And then a research paper also provides the author's contact details. So we always say that, okay, who's the author to be contacted when a paper gets published. So if somebody wants to get in touch with that author, if somebody wants to say that, oh, I want to do something more than what is mentioned here, then I would definitely, need to work on these lines. So I may want to write to the author, or somebody may decide that, oh, let's republish this paper in our journal, right? Or somebody will say that, well, I don't agree with the findings or the conclusion, so let me debate it with the author, or let me interview the author, and so on, right? So it provides the author's contact details so somebody can reach out, and it serves as a reference in future. So many people are probably going to, give a lot of citations to your paper if it is successful. In fact, a research paper author will himself or herself also give a lot of citations to others' papers based on which he or she has developed his body of knowledge, right? So it's an important, extremely important document that is produced, and it will be a great value addition to anybody's career to write a research paper. So trust me, if you are going to write a research paper and it gets published in a reputed journal, it will be a great value addition, right? So I was extremely, extremely happy and glad when my daughter's research paper got published in a IEEE journal, because as we all know, IEEE is one of the most reputed and respected community of engineers and scientists all over the world. So when you say, oh, IEEE has published my research paper, it becomes a big thing, right? So when my papers got published, I was so glad that, oh, okay, so my papers have got published in so and so reputed journal. So it immediately takes you to the international level. It immediately differentiates you from others. So there would be hundreds of them, thousands of them, right? But then if you look at it, so let's say, you know, when 1 lakh people get admitted to primary school, maybe all of them will move to the secondary school, but very few of them will actually go to colleges. Very few of them will, probably conclude their undergraduate. Even fewer will probably conclude their graduation, and even lesser will conclude their post graduation. Even lesser will probably go to a doctoral degree or a PhD degree, right? And out of all this, very rarely will you find people who can write research papers. So when let's say 1 lakh people get admitted to the primary school, maybe only 10 or 15 people are going to end up writing research papers. So that's how that percentage is less. And my point here is, if you carefully and deliberately, with a great amount of effort, do something in this area, you will be counted in those, 15 uh, elite group or special group of people who have published research papers. This could be a great value addition to your career. It could be a great value addition to your academics. And whenever you are, let's say, going for an interview, you are going for a meeting, you are going for collaboration, if you share your paper, people are going to look at you with a lot of respect, right? So especially students who are going to go abroad. So remember, once you have taken admission and so on, maybe it will be a mandatory part of your course curriculum that will ask you to write papers. X number of papers every term or every year will be mandatory. I know that there is a mandate like that for teachers and professors of colleges and universities, that every year they are supposed to do some research and they are supposed to publish research papers. So we'll talk about research paper journals in a moment. So this is a very old graphic, but still a very indicative one. So if you look at, the research paper statistics, so you will see that, and this is an old paper. So this was collected. This graphic was available to me in 2012. I could not get updated graphic for 2020, but maybe you all can search for it online as well. So you can see that the biggest the largest number of papers are coming from one country called as United States. And if you just look at the size of circles, you can see that the next, biggest country is China. And after that, of course, you'll see UK, you'll see Germany, you'll see France, you'll see Italy, you'll see Japan. And I don't have to tell you which are the biggest countries in the world today, right? One look at this illustration, and you would know, okay, who's going to rule the world. One look at this and you know who's ruling the world right now. So whatever businesses are going to get created tomorrow, right, are going to be based on the researches that are being done today. So today's research is going to be tomorrow's invention. Tomorrow's invention is going to be day after tomorrow's product or service line. And that is going to open up a lot of opportunities for businesses and for professionals, right? So we somewhere have to contribute in increasing the number of papers published by Indians. In fact, I was very surprised to see the number of papers published by Russia is comparatively less. I think Spain was much better, and I was extremely surprised to see Iran, at a notable level in that particular group. And it's a country rich with a lot of minerals. It's a country having a lot of scientists, and they are doing a lot of work, and they are surely going to dominate, that particular cluster of countries in the Middle East. So let's move on. So a sample of research papers. I already have a sample open for you. So let me just share it here. So let's see if you are able to see it now. Okay. So this is a sample of research paper. So what do you see here? So this paper was written by the author. So you can see the author's name there, right? This is your paper title. Now, why I'm showing this particular paper is because it was published by a group of some great scientists in India, and I was involved in the reviewing and editing of this paper. So here you can see that after the name of the paper, the title, you have got the names of the authors, right? After that, you have got what we call as an abstract. So an abstract actually tells you what is there in the paper. So many times people will just read the abstract and then they'll decide whether they want to, read the remaining paper or not. So the abstract has to be written very carefully, and it should be written after the complete paper is written, so that you have summarized all the important points. You have got the crux of it in the abstract. I have seen a lot of journals. All that they do is they just publish the titles of the paper. They publish the names of authors and the abstract, and then based on that, you can go ahead and if you want, you can archive the entire paper. So you can just see the abstract online. So if you just go to Google and search for papers, I think you'll be able to see abstracts of a lot of papers. Now, after that comes keywords. So keywords are the important words which are going to be, which have been used in your paper. And when you declare them as keywords, what happens is when the paper gets actually archived, so at that point of time, these keywords get defined as search keywords. Now, in future, if anybody searches for these keywords, this paper is going to come up, right? So instead of doing a full text search, so because your paper is going to have, let's say now this is like a 8 page paper, so it will probably be having something like 1800 words, right? So if you look at it, so obviously all 1800 are not important words. So if one has to look for it, what could one search, right? So that's important, that's given here. Now, after that, of course, you see the footnotes, and these footnotes you can see they have numbers, and these numbers correspond to the authors here. So for every author, right, they have given the contact details. Now, in a few cases, they may just give the contact detail of only one author, which is a coordinating author, and then you just get in touch with that author. So it also depends, right? Now, many times these contact details which are given, they also depend on who's sponsoring the research. So let's say one particular university has sponsored the research, then and if that author is working as a part of the faculty in that university, then the author's email ID which will be given will probably be the email ID given by the university and not the personal email ID like gmail.com, right? So a lot of things are important here. So after that, you actually see one more footer, and this is actually the name of the journal, right, where this paper was published. And you also see a serial page number here. So this was a journal that we had published for this International Mineral Processing Conference. And you can see here very clearly that the page number assigned is 215. Actually, we had published, as Balukeshwar sir just mentioned, so we had published close to about 600 papers, and so the total journal was approximately 800 pages. So this is the serial number, right? The serial page number of the entire journal, because when somebody is going to give a reference to this, so at that time that person is going to need this page number. He's going to need the name of the journal and the year it was published and so on. So all that goes in the part of the citation of the paper, right? So paper continued. Now, I don't think we may want to go through the entire paper because it's related to a particular subject, which many of us may not be able to, relate or appreciate. However, what I want to show in the paper, you have got embedded figures, and the figures will have a figure number, correct? So there are some standards for research and technical papers that figures will have figure numbers. If tables are used, tables will have table numbers, right? And so on. So here you can see that in the headings we are talking about the results and decisions here. So now there is a table giving the details or the readings that they wanted to share, right? And finally, it has got conclusions. And after that, as you can see, it has got references. So the authors are saying that yes, they have referred to so many other documents, right? So here you can easily see that who's the author of that particular document, when was it published, correct? What was the name, correct? And so on. So all these are called as citations. So the citations are included in the paper. So that was a quick look at the paper. So let's come back to the slide. So moving on with our presentation. So structure of the research paper. So what all is there in the paper? So of course you have the title, you have the list of authors, and we have just seen, all these parts or many of these parts. So you have got title, authors, you have got the abstract, you have got keywords, then you have got the introduction. Remember, the abstract talks about the entire paper, whereas the introduction is just one part of it. So abstract and introduction are different. Then you have got the actual content. Now within that content, if it's a research paper, then of course you have to mention about the research methodology that was used. Then you'll have to give the details of that. Then you actually do the discussion on the topic that you want to do, and then finally you give your conclusion, right? Now there will be endnotes and footnotes. So endnotes is something that comes at the end of the paper. Footnote is something that comes near the footer of that particular page where it is inserted. So as I shown you, the author's details were actually inserted as footnotes, whereas the citations were all endnote, right? So acknowledgement. So if the author would like to acknowledge contribution of people who have helped them, organizations who gave them data or who gave them resources to do the research, or then personalities who probably have guided them, who have probably helped them to review the document and so on. Within the paper, you will probably have any cross references where you'll say that, okay, for more details on this, please refer to section on conclusion, or for to look at the data, refer to table number 3 or something like that. And then of course you have the citations, right? So moving on. So what is the writing process? So this is the crux of sort of the presentation today. So what is the writing process? The writing process is, number one, read about the writing guidelines, and there are some standards available for this. So I'll talk about it in the subsequent slide. They are called as style guides, right? So follow the writing guidelines. A lot of papers get rejected not because they don't have good content, but because they are not following the style guide. And let me tell you that the style guide may be different for different organizations. It may be different for different publishers. While somebody will say, oh, we want it to be formatted like that, somebody else may probably be using a totally different template, right? So put together your content, compose your paper, define your keywords, right? Review your actual content that you have written, update, and then finally publish in one or more formats as it's required, right? So I'll show you here the IEEE research paper template. Now this is something that you can download for free, right? From Okay, I think it will be better. Maybe you should download it from the IEEE website. So just search for the IEEE research template, and you'll probably get the latest one instead of showing you the version which is slightly older. So maybe you can do it. I'll just tell you that the template is something that look like this, and then it is a file which is editable. So as you can see here, so on the screen, so this is just a screen capture. So it tells you that yes, table captions are required. It tells you that the overall layout is a 2-column layout in which text is put and so on. Now, all these things are very clearly defined in the template. And a lot of time the paper gets rejected only because of one thing, that they have not followed the template. Maybe the content was good and so on. So, people are asked to revise their paper because they are not following the template. So they just write the paper the way they want it, and they think, oh, so now it's the job of the editorial team to format it further. So the editorial team will in any case format it further, but then from your side, you're expected to give a paper which is as ready as possible. So it should be the best possible effort from your side, right? So look at the PDF document for the MLA style guide. So what is MLA? So MLA stands for the Modern Language Association Style Guide. So this style guide is here with me, and let me just show it to you for you to get an idea about it. So I hope you are able to see the slide here. This is your MLA research paper style guide, correct? So it actually tells you, how your name is going to be put, correct? That your paper is going to be given in double space, right? So that means there is going to be a lot of space between two consecutive lines of the paper. So it's a double space, setting. Then on the left, it is indented, right? The names of books, plays, poems, and so on have to be italicized. So this is the MLA style guide. Now, once again, this entire document is available online for free. And all those who are interested, I would highly, highly recommend you that please go online and search for MLA style guide, and you'll get this. And nowadays, they have even got a standard for referring, to a YouTube video. So which was probably not there about, let's say 10 or 12 years ago. But now there is a standard for referring to a YouTube video. So let's say I interviewed somebody on phone, and on phone that person has given me this information, and the person had never really written or published a paper, but then I have to give the reference to the telephonic interview also. So there is a standard for doing that, right? Or if somebody was interviewed in person, so there is a standard for referring to that, right? So and again, the dates are important so that your reader can put a context to it, saying that, oh, so this has happened before this, or on this date, or after that, and so on. So if you are referring to a magazine article from a database, so again you can see there is a standard, right, for that. If you are referring to something from a website, so it's not just important to give the name of the website, but you should also give the date, because it's possible that the article may be removed later. If it is a blog article, maybe it will be removed later, or then whatever updates may be possible, maybe updated version of that article could have come, in future, and so on. So we not just give the name, we also have to give the date, right? So this is the MLA style guide that we talked about. So let's go ahead with our slide. So review guidelines. So after the paper is written, what do? You actually review the paper, and these are the broader guidelines for review. There could be many smaller points that I can mention, but just remember these are the broader guidelines. So number one, does it follow the template? Now, what is the difference between a template and a style guide? A template tells you how to format it, what font to use, how much indentation is required, how much space between characters will be required, where are you going to put the figure caption, where are you going to put the table caption, what font are you going to use, and so on and so forth. Whereas a style guide may just go much beyond that, and it will tell you, oh, so if you are referring to interview, then it should be referred to like this, right? So a style guide gives you guidelines which go far beyond the formatting of the document, and it actually goes inside the words or inside the phrases or paragraphs. Many style guides will even tell you that after you have written the author's name, you'll need a comma, right? And so on. So does it follow the template, and does it follow the style guide? So obviously, if I'm sending my paper to IEEE, I'll have to follow the IEEE template. I'll have to follow their style guide. And of course, I should have studied many papers which are already published there to see whether my paper is of that particular standard that it can be published, before sending it to them. Check whether you have included the list of authors in the paper and the contact detail of the corresponding author, right? So one author may be nominated as the corresponding author, so just check if you have included all the details there. So, of course, you'll have to insert captions or tables and figures. You'll have to do a spelling and grammar check. And here, I would highly recommend the use of Grammarly as a tool, because Grammarly has got some fantastic settings inside, and it can actually add a lot of value to your paper. Grammarly goes very close to a human review, right? So it actually comes fairly close to another human being. So it's like another human being, reviewing your paper. However, I would still recommend that if you have written a very important paper, get it reviewed from somebody who actually understands the content and who can give you maybe suggestions about that. So check whether the units are mentioned properly, and whether they are suitable to the target audience. So I'd like to tell you a story. So there's one, professor in a college in Pune, and she reached out to me saying that, Mac, I have written a research paper, and then I have got it back from the publisher, and they are saying, please talk to a technical writer. And I said, so, I mean, did they give you any further clarification? He said, no, no. They just said, please talk to a technical writer and, ask him to review your paper and then submit it all over again. And then when I reviewed the paper, I found a lot of improvement areas, but there were two specific mistakes which I found, which is she had mentioned the term lakh, LAKH, right? Now, this is a term that we use in India, and we use it quite often. So we may say, oh, 5 lakh rupees, right? Now, globally, lakh is not the unit for measurement, right? So you'll have to say 500,000 rupees, or you'll have to say $500,000, or then you'll have to say 5 million, right? So we don't say 10 lakh, we'll have to say 1 million, right? So 10 lakh is equivalent of 1 million, correct? Now, she said that, but then if I'm writing about India, what's wrong in writing in rupees? I said there's nothing wrong in writing in rupees, but then in the footnote you should have mentioned that at the time of writing this paper, 1 rupee was equivalent to so many dollars, right? Or the other way around, $1 was equivalent to so many rupees, or something like that. Or then maybe, within the paper you could have written so many rupees into bracket so many dollars. That would have made it easier for others to follow it, right? So a number of times we are used to write the way we write, right? So again, when it comes to units of measurements, the standards may be different, right? So even the capitalization of units may be different in American English and British English, correct? So somebody will say kg, somebody will say pound. So you'll have to give the conversion rate there, right? So a lot of units may have to be, written in specific format, and many times their style guides will, specifically tell you that when you write so and so, write it in pounds, or write it in miles, or write it in kilometers, or whatever it is, right? So without that, it will just come back for revision. Now, let me tell you that typically, if a paper is being sent back for revision, maybe they'll just give you one or two attempts. In most cases, you may just get one more attempt to submit it again. So if you have not done the required quality changes and if you submit it, it will just come back, correct? And it may never get published. So fact of the matter is you had excellent content, your research was good, it was quite useful to people, but then you did not write it as per the template, you did not write it as per the style guide, right? So check whether correct units are mentioned, the proper quantities are mentioned. There are even standards on when a comma should be inserted in numbers. Should it be inserted after three numbers, or should it be inserted after two numbers, and so on. So, for example, in Western countries, they'll probably insert a comma after three digits, starting from the last digit, that is the first digit after the decimal point. But in India, I think what we do is we put it after three, then we put it after two, again we put it after two, and so on. So that's not a standard. So many of these things will have to be revised. Correct. You'll have to check whether you have given the proper citations to others or other contributors that you have referred to in your document. And the most important thing is plagiarism, or plagiarism as some people call it. So what is plagiarism? So plagiarism is you simply copy paste content from somebody else's paper and you say it is yours, right? So in most cases, plagiarism is now being dealt very seriously, and the author will be given a warning that plagiarized content is found in that paper. And it also depends on the context and the level to which plagiarism has been found. And for plagiarized content, you may be blacklisted. You may, let's say, if you are a member of that organization, they'll cancel your membership or suspend your membership. And in many associations, they may even blacklist you for 5 years or 20 years or for the rest of your career. Correct? So it depends on the extent of plagiarism. So what a lot of people think, and I think all of us, well, at least I cannot talk about all of you, but maybe I can talk about myself. So I'm guilty of copying many assignments in my school days, right? I used to take my colleague's notebook and just copy that from there to here, and then my assignment was done. Well, I think I've done that. I have to agree. But then I also have to tell you that at some point of time, I had to stop doing that. Otherwise, my life would not have progressed. My career would not have gone ahead, right? So plagiarism will be a serious issue. And trust me, all these organizations have got some very powerful tool for plagiarized content, right? So they find any plagiarized content in your paper, that's it. You will get, you'll probably get a feedback that the content has been plagiarized or something like that. And then based on that, an action may be taken. So never copy paste from somebody else's paper or report. And maybe you did do it with the clear cut intention. So obviously, in that case, you should give a citation for that. So if you are, copying my content from my paper, then you are supposed to say that well, in his paper, Makrand says so and so thing, and then the name of Makrand's paper, the year it was published, if possible, with the page numbers and everything, should be given in the list of references and citations that you are going to give, right? So without that, they'll say, oh, so we just found that your content has come from so and so paper, and you have not given credit, right, to that particular author or the person. So plagiarism is a sure short way of getting blacklisted. Plagiarism is a sure short way of losing your value. Plagiarism is a sure short way of spoiling your career. So do not do it. Make sure that your content is original. And whenever you are taking references from somebody else's literature papers, then do give proper credit to that person, right? So plagiarism is being dealt with very, very strictly nowadays. All right, so moving ahead with the presentation, so we talked about the review guidelines. So some citation standards. So there is something called as the APA standard or APA style for that. There's also something called as the Chicago Manual of Style. And there is, of course, the MLA style, which I think I showed you that style guide, right? So citations could be of papers, website, personal interviews, YouTube, other resources. I think I've shown you that in the MLA style guide. For online resources, mention the date when you access that resource, because afterwards maybe it will be taken down, right? So and so on. So you can search for the APA style and the CMA style, and I think you should get it. Now, if you are using Microsoft Word, the latest version, so Word itself has got the functionality of giving citations. So you can actually make a bibliographic list of papers, and you can include citations within Microsoft Word, and Word allows you to choose the style in which you want to insert it. There is also an online tool called as Bloom's toolkit, not Bloom's, Neil's Toolbox. Yeah. So the name of the site is Neil's Toolbox, and let me just see if I can open that for you here. And I think you'll be able to see my screen now. So this is Neil's Toolbox, right? So if you put the name of the author and the article title and so on and so forth here, and then you say, okay, build a reference now. So it will give you a reference which you can just copy paste, correct? So this is the Harvard style reference generator. There are many other tools available here. So you can see that Harvard reference generator, you have got a plagiarism checker, you have got lazy researcher, which by the way is an excellent tool if you want to refer to for doing research online. You have of course got the MLA reference generator also over here, and so on. You should do a readability check of your paper, right? And News Toolbox will be able to, I think, do that. Or then there are many other online tools which can do that. Actually, Word itself can do that. So let me just show that to you. So I'll just start Word. So give me like a couple of minutes for Word to get started. And so here we go, and we'll say a new document here. And let me get Microsoft Word here. So I hope you are able to see the Word window now, the Microsoft Word window now. All right. So very quickly, let me show you a demo. So I'm going to say it is not raining today. All right. Very good. Now I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Options. Then I'm going to go to Proofing. Now here you'll see a checkbox called as Show Readability Statistics. All right. By default, this checkbox is switched off, or it is unselected. It is deselected. So you'll have to select that checkbox and say OK. Now watch what happens when I run a spell check of this document. Now remember, this document is very small in the sense that it's just one sentence here. So I'm just going to run a spell check. So my spell check runs, and what does it tell me? It tells me that my Fletch Kincaid grade level is 2.8 and my reading ease is 83. Now what does that mean? It means it's easy to read, and 2.8 means actually a student learning in third standard in as per the American education, will be able to read and understand. So let me modify this sentence a little bit. So I'll say it is not raining today because of the lack of precipitation. All right, now let's run the spell check again. So F7 for spell check. Now here you will see that my reading ease has gone down from 83 to 57 and my grade level has gone up to 8. So which means this sentence will now only be understood by somebody who's 8th standard, or student or 9th standard student, right? The longer the sentence, the more difficult it becomes to read, right? So anyway, so I'll just close that. So this was the readability checker for you, and then this was the Niels toolbox for you. So I recommend that you can go through that. So coming back to our presentation, so let's go to the next slide. Peer review. So there are many types of reviews done. Peer review is done by another scholar, and I have been a peer reviewer for some of the journals, so I can tell you this, that many times when papers come to us, they come to us for a blind review. And what it means is, I don't know the name of the authors who have written it. They just tell me that, well, you are a professional working in this field, so review this paper and give us your feedback, right? So a peer review is very good because it ensures quality of content. A peer review also, of course, includes checking for plagiarism and so on. And peer review may also be done by more than one reviewer. So one paper may be reviewed by, let's say, 3 or 5 reviewers, and then we are given a standard or a table or a checklist based on which we are supposed to give feedback. Now, once we give that feedback, then based on that, that paper will be accepted, rejected, or it may be sent for further work and so on. So the best of the best journals in the world are called as the peer-reviewed journals. So which means a writer's work is reviewed not just by an editor, but it's also reviewed by an expert in that field. So if a gynecologist doctor has written a paper, it will be reviewed by another gynecologist doctor. It will probably not be reviewed by a technical writer like me, because I may not be able to do justice to the content of that subject or the treatment of that subject, right? So the peer-reviewed journals are some of the best journals, and that's where your paper should get published. There are many publishing formats, so you may be able to publish as PDF or EPUB. They are the standards. HTML is also standard. Practically nobody is publishing in a Word document now. So Word document or .doc or .docx file is used for writing it. It's only for the editing time. Once it is completed, you should convert it to HTML or PDF or EPUB. EPUB is the electronic publishing format, which is a standard by the International Digital Publishing Forum. So IDPF has created EPUB, and I think the latest version of EPUB is EPUB 3. Correct? It may be published in more than one format, and EPUB files may be published ahead of the printed copy. So many times what happens is, well, you have given your paper to the journal, and you know the journal is going to print it, and they are going to publish it, let's say on 15th of June, right? But then you want to claim the ownership of that paper as soon as possible. So what the journal may do, or the community may do, is they may just publish you the EPUB file of your paper ahead of time. So the date of publishing gets written as 1st of June, for example, and then maybe the printed copy will be available on 15th, but the date of publishing will be taken as 1st of June, right? So you don't want to leave that edge of 15 days where somebody else may publish something similar related to your field, and you may lose credit on that, right? So for more information, look at the IEEE website. I think I already mentioned this. You may also want to look at the scientific communication special interest group of my society, the Society for Technical Communication. There is a step-by-step guide for writing MLA style papers, so you can refer to that. If you have got mobile phones, I suggest you keep them ready and take a photograph of the slide so that you can refer to it in future. So let me go ahead. There are some exercises to get you started, and some tools that I've already shown you. So I'll just open that exercise sheet. So I have to acknowledge following sources. So I always look at Wikipedia as a reference. So I'd like to acknowledge Wikipedia, MLA, APA. and a number of research papers which are published on many websites which I keep on reading and writing. Uh, well, I have not written as much, but I definitely keep on reading as much. So the handy tools, so Howard reference generator, Niels toolbox, MLA reference generator, plagiarism checker, and plagiarism detection tool. So if you, there is a very popular plagiarism detection tool called as Viper. So if you want to see the working of Viper, you should go to my website, my YouTube site actually. So go to YouTube and search for TechnoRights, or go to YouTube and search for Makaram Pandit. I've got about 65 videos on my site that you may want to look at. The Viper demo is also there, and it's only one of the popular videos, so you can see the entire demo there. Grammarly is of course a fabulous tool, and I think everybody should have it. I think the student version of Grammarly may be available at a slightly more affordable price. And if it is not there, then definitely contact your faculty and request them to get the Grammarly check done if they have a Grammarly license. So maybe refer to sites like Google Scholar or Google Patents, where you'll see a lot of papers published and you can read them. Now, I found some courses available online. So if you want to take a photograph of this, you can do that. So I found that there are some courses available on Coursera for writing research papers. Now, these courses may not be free. There may be a cost associated to that. And I can also tell you that my organization, which is TechnoWrite, so we conduct courses in content writing as well as technical writing, which could be extremely useful for people who want to write different types of documents, right? So, and you can join our course also, which is available online if you want. The Coursera courses I just showed you. Okay, you definitely want to take a photograph of this particular slide, and I tell you why. That's because of the download link that I have given you on the slide. So you should type this link in your browser, and that will open up a page where you can download the entire PDF of this PPT. So I have converted this PowerPoint presentation, my slide deck, I have converted into a PDF form, and I have already shared it online. So I thought that let me save the time of Balukeshwar sir by giving you a link directly. Otherwise, some of you may have written to him asking for the links. So go to that link, and that's where you'll see this entire presentation. All right. So https tinyurl.com r paper materials, r paper mat. So just go there and you'll be able to download this particular entire PPT. In addition to that, you'll also be able to download the exercise that I'm going to show you now. And I've got some material for you there. Okay, so let me look at that exercise file and open that for you. If you want to try the exercise, so here is the exercise for you. So I am calling it as a story of an invention. So I've just given a story here, and I'm saying that if you want to try something, so try writing a technical paper based on this, right? So a factory has a presence of hazardous fumes and gases. Now, if the glass of any bulb cracks, this could lead to a possibility of a fire breaking out. Or the fire may lead to losses to human resources as well as the company's assets. So the company hired an expert called Mr. Scientist to help. After about 2 years of trial and error, Mr. Scientist came up with three designs of light bulbs. He tested all three of them and found two of them to be suitable for use. He recommended further testing considering the practical use, patent, commercialization, and manufacturing of those two designs of light bulb. Now the exercise for you is imagine the necessary details and try to write a technical white paper based on this. So your white paper, of course, will have these contents. So you'll have introduction, you'll have overview, you'll have summary. Of course, don't forget the abstract, the keywords, and the title and names of authors. You'll actually have the background, the technical data. You'll have discussion, opinions, reasoning, conclusion, recommendation, references, and so on, right? And now to work on this, I mean, some more ideas for you. If you're working on technical papers, try to work on maybe two papers at a time because it may optimize your process. Correct. I'm not going to read out this text. I'm sure you can do that when you download this file, right? If you are going to write a paper, then here is a scheduling sheet for you. So you may write, okay, so what is the name of my paper? What is the name of author? What is the subject it is talking about? And then you try to identify the milestones, right? So I'll say that, oh, so I want my ready copy to be there by end of June. So 30th of June 2020 is my target completion date. Then I'll have to work backwards from there. And then I'll have to write down the intermediate steps there. Like when am I going to start that step and when am I going to end it? So this is kind of a scheduling sheet that will help you to plan for your project, and you'll realize that it's very difficult to complete it on time if you have not identified dates. Correct? So many times I say, yeah, I'll write about it whenever I get time. And most of the times my excuse is, yeah, on this Sunday I'll sit and do it. Saturday, Sunday is the great time to come and do it. But then it never happens, and whatever I wanted to write in 2 months, many times has even taken something like 6 months. So that's when we started working backward. So do the backward calculation from your date. All right. Now, if you want to get started now, this sheet is for brainstorming, correct? So you can print this sheet and you can use it. So I have just given you open space for writing things that you may want to write. So many times what happens is the writers get caught in the details, you know. So they work on the introduction and then they are stuck in the introduction for 3 days, right? So this is kind of a starter sheet for you or a starter kit for you. So in the center, write down the name of the paper, problem or need. So that's when you are going to write down your problem, and then technical data. What data do you want to present in this? So just print the sheet, correct? Write down with a simple pen or pencil, and that will be your brainstorming to get started with the paper, right? I have got one more sheet, which is a sheet to be used after this. So okay, so once you have written all that down, then try to write the things in the boxes. So once you have written what you are going to introduce, try to write your opening segment in a box, right? Once you have written the technical data that you are going to use, try to write the related links and sources, correct? Once you have decided that, oh, so I'm going to show this data, so try to identify the chart. Are you going to put it as a pie chart? Are you going to put it as a bar chart? Are you going to put it as an area chart or whatever, right? So you say, oh, I'm going to do this console discussion. Then what graphic probably you can think of inserting over there, correct? So if you say opinions, so then just try to anticipate if another researcher or another scholar is going to read that paper, what question that person may ask you. So write down those questions and then write down the answers to those obvious questions, right? So if you know what you are going to conclude, write down your closing statement. If you know what references you are going to give, write down a list of books, papers, and so on, right? So this is the second sheet of the starter kit. So this is your starter kit, right? Your first page is your planning sheet. Your second page is where you are going to identify the bigger heads, so what we call as the mota-moti planning. And once you have done that, then get into the finer details. Once these two sheets are prepared, I would say you are reasonably clear about what you are going to write. And if you will not be able to write it, it will become very clear to you in the process of preparing these two sheets or writing these two sheets that I'm not yet fully aware and I perhaps need to do a little bit of more work on this, or then maybe this topic is not suitable, I should consider another topic. And that's one of the reasons why I said that start thinking about two topics at any point of time. The last page is just a simple notes page, so if you print it, you can just write your notes on that. So this exercise sheet, of course, is also there in the link that I mentioned. All right. So if you want to make a note of this, you can write down this. If you don't have a pen and paper handy, then just take a photograph of this slide. You'll get my PDF of this presentation and the PDF of that exercise sheet at this URL. So coming back to the earlier slide, so you may want to take a photograph of this so you can get more information about this. Of course, you can go to my site called as technorise.com. I think I forgot to mention here that I'm also a published author, so I've written some books. So there are two books available already on Amazon. So one is Interview Answers for Success, that is suitable for people who want to get a job. So this is not really for academic admissions. The second is Building Future-Proof Careers, which could be applicable to practically everybody. So right from a student to somebody who's 60 years old or somebody who's looking at a mid-career change at 45 years. This book could be useful to everybody. So these two books are available on Amazon.com. My LinkedIn link is also there, so you can follow me on LinkedIn. I write some articles and so on. You can, of course, send me a mail with your feedback about the session. And if you have any questions that I can answer, we can do that. So I think that's it from me for the moment. So if anybody has questions, we can maybe take a couple of questions, or then we are probably done for the session. So this is one more slide that you may want to note or take a photo. If you have got the link, then of course you'll get all this information because this is all included in the PDF file.